Hello, my fellow friends. I'm Hazel.
Hi, I'm Azura.
It's Jermaine.
And welcome back to Clarity's
Hush Podcast.
If you're watching our video, we are in PJs again today.
Yeah.
Na, 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 na.
And also, we have our very own hash stickers.
Yay! Zoom in. My one is the one with
Squiggly
the
one.
outline.
There are two
the
kinds.
squiggly,
shape.
squiggly one. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
mine
right.
is the circle one. But thank you so much to the team for actually printing these. And the
should have worn it
design
here,
as
huh?
well. Oh, also can lah.
And if you've been watching our Hush podcast, the video versions, you will know which one is us because we have
Yes.
always been sitting in this exact
Same
way.
position.
Yeah.
That's true, that's true.
From season 1 all the way to now. Okay, but today we are going to focus on something very, very important.
Sensitive as well.
Yeah. As we all know, International Women's Day is coming real soon, 8th of March.
Woo!
And so today we are going to discuss workplace sexual harassment.
That's right. Okay, so here is a little content warning.
Okay, yes, that's right. Before we proceed, we want to tell you that this episode contains recounts of sexual harassment and that you should only proceed if you're comfortable listening to them. It might be a bit sensitive and things like that. But I think it's important as well.
Yep.
And at any time, if you're listening to these stories and what you hear is what is happening to you at the same time, we advise that you seek help from official or relevant authorities. And this includes your bosses, HR department where you work, the police if it's more serious, like molest or rape. We also understand that there are cases where the harassment comes from personnel of higher authority as well. And it may get a little bit scary for you, but we'll get more into depth about that later. But if that's what you're currently experiencing, we advise that you seek help from organizations such as AWARE. There's also Sexual Assault Care Center, SACC, who could advise you professionally on your situation.
Another
That's right.
disclaimer, later I will share a story and I'll scold people.
Ayo!
Oh.
Okay. So need to bleep out or what?
Depends on what comes out of my mouth.
Okay,
So in what language leh?
Hokkien Mee. No lah.
Yeah, so today we'll be discussing workplace sexual harassment. So, I mean, we can start with a bit of like brief thoughts on this whole situation, right? Do you feel like this is a situation or this is a problem that you actually see in Singapore?
I think so. I think we see it overseas. We see it in dramas. We see it in movies. And I think we also hear about it happening in Singapore. And we also see it on the news lah, actually. So I do think it's quite rampant. Maybe some we see, some we hear, some we don't. And I think there's also a spectrum of it, you know. Some are... People might think that it's just words. And they think it's okay because it's just words. Never touch ma.
Yeah. Understand.
I think I'm very fortunate. Of all the places that I've worked at, right? Either I'm very oblivious to the surroundings or I'm really very blessed to be working in such safe environments where this kind of thing really don't happen. Until now, lor. Someone just touched my thigh.
So I think like what Azura said, right? Sometimes maybe you don't really see it or you don't really understand that hey, this is actually workplace sexual harassment. Maybe you in a sense you have internalized it and you have kind of reasoned with yourself that oh, this is normal lah. So I just take it lor.
And a lot of times they pass it off as jokes.
Yes, exactly.
Right, he's
That's
just
the
kidding
thing.
with me, you know?
Yeah. So I think it's reported that women in many industries in Singapore, not just entertainment industry, across all industries, they've suffered multiple forms of sex-based harassment in the workplace.
Okay.
And in a first nationally representative survey on workplace sexual harassment, this was actually carried out by a research firm as well as AWARE. They found that 2 in 5 workers in Singapore have been victims of unwelcome sexual advances or remarks in the office in the past 5 years. That's a very huge percentage. So that's kind of crazy, right? But first, let's unpack what exactly is sexual harassment.
Okay, so it is defined as unwanted conduct of a sexual nature or other conduct based on sex affecting the dignity of women and men at work. So what does this include? Unwelcome physical, verbal or non-verbal conduct. Wow, so it's not just touch, you know, even words, verbal or non-verbal kinds of forms of conduct.
Exactly.
Can be considered as sexual harassment.
And for men as well.
Yeah. In the workplace, definitely. I think some examples, you know, it ranges from upskirt photos. We've seen a lot of these in the last couple of years. You've got stalking, you've got molestation, you've got kind of like using authority to threaten, where let's say your boss threatens to fire you if you reveal anything.
Yeah, but then again, then that's not a safe workplace to be at, right?
Not at all, but some people, I guess, don't have a choice, you
Yep.
know.
Oh.
They gotta stay, they gotta get that bread for their family. You've also got unwanted sexual advances from co-workers or clients, catcalling, suggestive names, and lewd jokes that basically, if you feel uncomfortable, it is wrong. Lah. And sexual harassment comes in many different forms. It can happen to anyone, no matter what age you are, no matter if you wear long sleeve, short sleeve, no sleeve, also can happen to you.
Yeah, and don't think that it only happens to women. Like we mentioned just now, it can happen to men as well. Yeah, so I think this is a very interesting episode.
That's right. I think now is kind of the right time to talk about this. You know, a couple of years ago, we had the whole Me Too movement, right?
Yeah.
And that really, really sparked something huge in the world. Before that, I think a lot of people would have felt uncomfortable to even come forward about these things.
Yeah, and uncomfortable aside, I also feel like sometimes, especially when it's not touch, right? People feel like, is it warranted for me to make a fuss out of this?
Am I being too sensitive?
Yeah,
Am I
you
being
know,
too picky?
Is it
Yeah, or like
I
how
read
would-
too much into it?
Or how would my colleagues look at me if I
Yeah.
bring this up? You know,
Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure behind all
Correct.
these things.
Yeah. So I think rather than brush it aside as a joke, right, which will not change anything in the future, if you actually speak up about it, like if someone said something to me that is perhaps, okay, not about sexual harassment, but a bit racist, right?
Okay.
I would literally call them out, you know? I've told them before, I said, like, that's racist, you shouldn't say that. Then they just stop in their tracks, like, whoa, what should I do? Because no one's told them that before. People usually laugh politely, like, and laugh it off. Yeah. So perhaps that's what it takes. So I want to give you an example. A recent incident of workplace harassment involving a comedian. Her name is Sharul Chana. Okay. So Sharul actually went onto kind of like a talk show. She was a guest. And a former nominated member of parliament allegedly made a kind of like sexual and belittling comment
What kind of comment?
towards her. So in the call before and in the interview, right, they were just discussing what to actually talk about. Sharu was asked by the host about a rose kind of like pin that she was wearing on her shirt. And she actually said, I put it on to distract from the pattern on my top. Then the host said, it would be more distracting if you were only wearing that rose. And nothing else. Basically, that's what he meant, and nothing else. So she felt incredibly uncomfortable. And there's two things she could have done in this situation. One, she could have just eaten it up and moved on. But two, she actually chose to speak up about it. And I think that what she did was the right choice.
Correct, but it doesn't mean that by speaking up you're damaging your career, you know?
No.
In fact, I think you may garner more followers who didn't dare to speak up previously, but because you did, you are role models to them.
Exactly. I think people might think that, hey, this might hurt my future chances,
Right.
this and that, and sometimes that prevents them from speaking out. But after she actually spoke out, she got an email apology from the perpetrator, and he acknowledged that he had made her feel uncomfortable and apologized.
Right. So recently as well, I saw this post. I'm always quoting, So, it was a post basically to educate people, and it was they sort of like quoted this incident where this girl, she had a boss at work say some inappropriate things about her, but
Okay.
passed it off as a joke.
Okay.
And her father had taught her that if anybody says this kind of things to you, make them explain it. So she said, sorry, I don't get it. And then he had to explain. And once they have to explain, it's not funny, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's embarrassing for themselves.
Hey.
Hey, good idea, leh.
Oh my gosh. Imagine if Sharu had asked this guy,
Exactly.
explain what do you mean? It
Yeah.
would be more distracting if I only wear a rose brooch.
Yeah.
Immediately he would have been like,
Yep.
Right.
you catch them.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a very good piece of advice. Wow. Okay. Everyone should do that.
Interesting.
So have you guys had experiences like that where someone's made a passing remark to you and you just felt so uncomfortable by it, but maybe you didn't say anything?
Only passing remarks?
It can be more so like actually sexual harassment / assault if you're willing to share lah.
Okay, so I'll go first. Okay, I'll share my story first. This didn't happen in my workplace, thankfully. It happened in this event that I was hosting years ago in Bugis, I still remember.
Okay.
Back then there was no COVID, so everyone could attend live events and stuff, right?
Great,
So
yeah.
a few fans came up and they wanted to take photos with me. So of course I was more than happy. Sound effect. So this guy, he came out, he actually shows up at quite a few events.
Okay.
And then he came out and said, 尹川我可以跟你拍张照吗? To which of course I said yes. And I think I'm a bit more open-minded. I'm not so traditional, conventional. So he actually put his hand, I think near my shoulder, or was it like my elbow? I can't really remember. We snapped the photo, and then his hands just slid down casually. It was so casual that even me, at that point in time, I was thinking, was that an accident or did he do that on purpose?
Oh my gosh.
But when he let his hand slide down, right, it actually brushed against my butt.
Oh my goodness.
If it's an accident, I don't think it can be so coincidental that you hit that exact spot. You know,
And you would
what
have
I mean?
said sorry if it's an accident. Like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean that.
sorry. You know,
Yeah.
you would have like
Correct.
Exactly,
jolted
but,
as well.
but he didn't. He just thanked me for the photo and he moved on. And I was just there thinking like, did I imagine this?
Okay.
You know,
Do you think he had the intention to do that?
now on hindsight, yes, definitely. So I actually spoke to a few other fans about this, and they told me that he actually has like kind of a reputation for doing this. Of course, a bad rap lah for doing this. So that's when I know he didn't do it
By accident.
by accident.
Right.
And I wish that I could come out there and then and ask him, what the hell are you doing, you know?
Right.
But it's because in that moment I really wasn't sure, and I really don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill, you know? What if it really was an accident? And it was only like a light brush, and then he moved away.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that makes me so angry.
But what would you have done? I forgot to scold people. Hey, you stop it.
Yeah,
The next
who
time I
is
see
it,
you, you do this again.
You come here.
I will
Okay,
give
you come
one
here and find
punch
us.
in
No.
your face.
You're so fierce, so fierce.
yeah.
Alin, come on, Alin, come on.
But
What would we have done?
as public figures?
No, but I totally understand you because in that moment, right?
Yeah. You're unsure
You're
what
a bit
happened.
frozen.
Yeah,
Yeah. And you wouldn't want to cause a scene not knowing if this person did it on purpose or not.
correct.
And I think maybe perhaps it was a few years ago, you were a bit younger as well. Now, right, if that happened to you again,
Whack the fella.
yeah, what would you
Yeah.
have done?
I think you may punch him.
Scold him at least,
Okay,
right?
lah, cannot punch lah. Yeah,
Scold,
yeah.
right?
I'll
You would
scold him
scold,
and
right?
I'll call him out lah at the very least, because I really don't want this kind of people doing this to other
Exactly.
women or other girls, you know?
Exactly.
It's bad. But more importantly, at that point in time, I was afraid of accusing him wrongly.
Understand.
I didn't want to make him feel bad for something he did by accident.
Right.
Yeah. Actually, to this very day, I'm still not sure whether or not it's an accident.
But if you talk to other people and they also had the similar stories, right?
Yeah.
Then it's very likely
More
that
likely than not. Yeah.
So by speaking up and by, kind of like standing up against these wrong actions, I feel like these perpetrators would be a bit more hesitant to do the same thing to other people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, thank you so much, Hazel, for actually sharing your story today.
no problem.
Yeah. If the guy is listening, you better watch out.
Watch out.
Really. You do
I
it to
actually know
another
his
girl.
name leh. But okay lah, let's not.
No, let's
Okay,
not
let's
do
not
it.
do
But
it.
find you.
But yeah, if you do it to anyone else, we will find you. So, what about you, Azura? Has
my God.
anything like that ever happened to you?
Okay, so 2 stories here.
Okay.
First one, right? Actually, I wanted to ask you guys because this is something I still struggle with.
Okay.
Okay. I get inappropriate comments or messages from listeners on the daily. And I don't know if it's me being oversensitive, but it makes me uncomfortable.
Okay.
And as of late, I've been calling them out on air.
Whoa.
And I don't know if I should. You know, it's that balance because
What is the message though?
okay, so I have stopped reading comments on Facebook because when I do, it's a bit and actually, I have a friend of mine, a close friend of mine, who has like hidden my Instagram from her page because she says every time I post stuff, she can't deal with the comments, so she just doesn't want to see them anymore.
But I think the worst comments may be on WhatsApp, because nobody else can see these people, and it's like
Correct.
one-to-one kind of thing.
Correct. So the Facebook ones I don't even look at anymore.
Okay.
Because these are people with like family photos as their profile picture and then saying things like, right? And you're just like, hello?
That's the worst thing when they have their children in their profile photo.
Exactly. So messages that I get, right, would include things like, okay, last week I was on leave. And then when I came back on the following Monday, I got a message from somebody who messages in daily lah. Okay, so loyal listener lah, I would say.
Okay.
And it's not the first time he said things. Sometimes I ignore, sometimes I call them out. So this one, he took a picture of an apple.
Apple, okay.
Okay. And said, so good to hear you back on air. The apple of my eye is back.
Okay.
Oh.
And little things like that piss me off leh.
Is
and I
it?
don't know if it's just me.
Okay, but I think it really depends on the tone. It's just me, I find
I
that
would be
sweet leh.
yeah, maybe
Because
does
he will-
this guy have a history of
Yes.
being lewd?
Yes.
Oh,
So
okay,
he will
okay,
like
okay,
cutie
okay.
and sweetie and like, oh, you
Okay.
look so good in that top or that dress or like just a bit chikopek lah, I mean, honestly.
Okay, but what if it was a lady saying all this? Would you have been this affected?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But imagine, guys, what if it was your dad that said this?
Exactly.
Right, it's totally not okay.
Because this person, as in I know he's like double my age with a child, a young child who he always like sends pictures of or whatever. And then it just feels a bit sleazy to me lah.
Okay, understand. So you will call him out on air by saying,
So on that day, I think maybe I was also a bit angsty lah. And so I went on air and I said, oh, are these the same words you use with your wife?
oh, I like that. Did your boss call you after that? Did your boss call you after that?
Never. If I'm always a bit scared like, honestly.
But you see, by saying this, right, did he stop?
Yeah.
Exactly. So it worked.
Okay, so I've called him out before as well. There was once, I think, where he will like cutie, sweetie, that kind of thing, and I will ignore. I'll read the rest of the message out and I'll ignore that bit.
Correct.
But because you ignore, it will happen every day. So one day I said, okay, let's do something about this. So I played it in a joking manner as well.
Right.
And I said, Aya, cute is not really the look I'm going for leh. I'm not your cutie, sorry. And then he texted in and said, oh, sorry.
Wow. I think it was the right move on your part because you didn't like scold him or say
Yeah.
anything. You kind of brushed it off as a joke, but it made him get the idea that what he's doing is. Can you imagine? He's thinking like, oh yeah, I don't even say this to my wife.
Oh, yeah.
For example, okay, so that's story one.
That's story one.
Okay.
Okay, story two.
Wow, my goodness,
Wow.
this is going to be a good one.
Ayo, she knows the story.
No, only a bit, only
Only
a bit.
Okay,
I told- Here we go, here we go.
Here we go. I took a guy to court a couple of years ago.
What?
What did he do?
Okay, so this was maybe 4 years ago, I believe.
Okay.
Or maybe close to 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And at that time, so I used to do production.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh.
So we were working on a drama. I wasn't in front of the screen, so I was behind.
Okay.
Okay. You know when you produce, there are like many other things that you have to do as well, right? Okay. So this has to do with location.
Location scouting.
Yes. So as in I had to deal with that as well, right? And because it was a long running series, it was one of the hero houses. So it was going to be used for a long time, which was
Okay.
about 6 months. And because I came in as a freelancer, I used to do freelance, right? So this house had already been found by a full-timer in the company.
Okay.
Okay, so when I came in, it was, okay, we're going to use this house with this character. Just take it from there.
Okay.
Okay, so this is an empty apartment owned by this person.
Okay.
Okay, so basically the story that I was told before Hannah was this guy has 3 daughters. They don't live there because he bought the house with his wife when she was alive, and she had since passed. But because like I think either one of them was not Singaporean or something like that, so he can't do anything with the house now.
Oh.
Because
Okay.
they bought the house, they lived there, and then they did better in life, so they moved out. They bought another place, they moved out, and so now this place they can't do anything
It's
with it.
vacant, lah, basically.
So it was ideal for filming, right? Because
Okay.
it's not occupied. And because it was just left like that, so because we had to do stuff to the house, so that was okay as well. Like, oh, okay, you want to do stuff as long as like you reinstate it later lah. Okay. So that was what I was being told. So I had never met this person. And then as we start filming and things like that, we still never met him. And at some point, we started getting a lot of complaints from him.
Okay.
Like he would constantly complain and say his neighbors have been telling him that, oh, like for example, the crew has been smoking outside the corridor, or that he dropped by the place when we're not around, and then like there's just way too many damages, that sort of thing. But because I don't usually go on site, so it's a lot of like, and he will always threaten to like pull it back lah, basically.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
And because we're not even halfway through, right? So the pressure is on Azura, keep the house. Keep the house. We need to do something about this. We can't move out now, you know. Okay. So eventually when we started like having to pay them, so we pay them monthly because it was long running, right? So we pay them monthly. And then when we had to calculate days, so the first, I think it was maybe the first month or the second month or something like that. Like we had combined a couple of months. And then he said, hey, I don't think it tallies with the number of days that you used lah.
Okay.
So the amount is less. He wants more.
He wanted more.
Okay.
And then I said, because I was going to drop the check off or like mail the check or something like that. And he said, actually, can we meet? So I said, okay. Where do you work? I'll drop by for like lunch or like after work, that kind of thing, you know. I just drop by to, because I didn't want to spend like too much time with this person because he'll start complaining, right? And I want to keep this house. So we need to keep it short, you see. And then he went on and on that day about, threatening to pull back the house and said there were just too many damages. How come there are holes and drills and whatever? You know, you've done this. Can we meet at the house?
Okay.
At the house where you guys are filming.
Yes.
Okay.
But no one was filming that day.
Right. Just to get the check or just to
look
assess
through the damage,
right.
Look through the
Assess.
damage because he said he wanted to walk me through the damages.
Okay, sure.
Okay. And for me to, I had the check ready, but he wanted to recalculate the days. Okay, so sure, we can do that. So I didn't think much about it, right? So I said, okay. So that day, I was supposed to have dinner with my friends, but they had all gone off first because I said, I need to go and settle this guy. So I went down to the place alone. I was a bit late. So on the way there, I was already like, I'm so sorry, because this guy is just like grumpy and angsty and everything, right? So I'm so sorry I'm a little bit late. So he was waiting for me at the void deck.
Okay.
And then the minute he saw, because he had never met me before this, the minute he saw me, I went in for a handshake, right? But he took my hands and kissed it.
Wow.
Eee.
And then
Fetish,
immediately tone change.
Huh?
And it's okay.
Oh,
But he
see,
was
pretty girls like that.
scolding me like mad the whole day leh.
Right.
How old were you at this time?
Should be 4 years ago.
4 or 5
About
years,
20,
maybe
20,
21, 22.
23,
Okay.
yeah.
Had he seen you before that day?
Never. It's our first time meeting.
So he doesn't know that you are a young lady,
Don't know.
age 23.
No
Don't know.
idea who you are lah.
No.
Okay.
Don't know how I
Okay.
look.
Alright.
Don't know anything.
Okay, then after that he kissed your hands and
Okay. And also, I was in a turtleneck long sleeve top.
okay.
So this is to tell you that it can happen. Whatever you wear, it can happen. Okay. So I said, okay, let's go up. So we went up. Nothing happened in the lift. He was talking to me. And he was basically saying this and that. And I was just like, so he asked me like things. And then I just answered lah. So it was just like, okay, conversation, right? And then we got to the house. So I think the keys were with him because I don't hold a set of keys. So he opened the place. And then we went in. But obviously because I wasn't thinking lah. So I didn't take notice of, whether he locked the door.
Oh,
Whether,
so he locked the door basically.
I don't know.
Okay.
I cannot remember now.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Oh my gosh, I'm getting so scared. I don't know where this story is going. Okay.
okay, so I didn't take notice of these things. And it is the first time I'm sharing this story. Like,
Oh,
I'm
thank you for
nervous
being so
also.
so
Okay,
so
okay.
courageous.
Hold hands,
Okay.
Cool,
I
ah.
won't kiss your
Very
hand.
cool. Okay, and then maybe 5 minutes in, so he turned the lights on, right? And I said, okay, walk me. He wanted to talk about like everything irrelevant, lah, basically. I said, look, I have to run. Walk me through the damages. So started bringing me around the house, right? And then it felt a little bit like you were making things up as well. Like, hiya, we already tell you that when we're done, we're gonna repaint and everything. Why
It's
are you
like
making a
BS
fuss?
lah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It sounded a little bit like that as well. So 5 minutes in, I cannot remember right now. I think it's very, very fuzzy right now. But when we were in one of the rooms, basically, he was showing me something. And then he hugged me from the back and started trying to like kiss me.
Kiss you where? On your head.
Because he was from the back, right? So like wherever he could, you see. But this region.
What did you do?
So I was dodging and I was like, no. But I don't know. I feel like before it happens to you, when you hear about these things, you feel like you scream, you run, you kick the fella in the balls. But at that time, right, you really can't think. And I was actually like frozen. I still remember I had my phone in my hand, but I couldn't unlock it. And I still had like my bag on me and everything, you know. It was like in my hands because I wasn't there to like make myself comfortable. So I was just literally holding everything that I had with me. So I was trying to unlock this phone, you see, and I couldn't. So I was dodging this thing and I got out, I swam out of his grip. And at that point, right, don't ask me what I'm thinking now because obviously I couldn't think like I think. But I said, let's carry on with the house.
Wow.
This professionalism right there, man.
Wow.
You're one professional lady.
I don't know, leh. People might say like stupid, just
But
run.
what did he say when you said let's continue with the house?
Of course he'll be glad, right?
I can't remember, leh. Maybe he might have continued to like try and talk, that kind of thing.
Okay, but did anything else happen after that?
Yeah. So we carried on with the house. Aiyo.
Okay, no, I'm just worried. I know it's happened already, but it's just like...
So we carried on with the house, and then it happened a second time.
Hug you from behind
So
again.
he hugged me from behind again, and this time he tried to put his hand up my shirt.
A long sleeve turtleneck.
Yes,
Wow,
but
that makes me
like it's a bit flowy,
so
right?
angry. I have many, many Hokkien words I want to say. Right
Say it. Say it. No. Oh my goodness. Okay,
Okay,
so how do you
yeah,
react this time?
second time
Were you
round.
more like
I
composed?
was very scared. I was
Okay.
very
Of
scared.
course.
And I pushed his hand away and I tried to swim out of his grip and I said no, no, no. And I remember after he moved his hand out of my shirt, he groped me from outside.
Oh my gosh. What is wrong with this guy? What is wrong with him?
Okay.
Okay.
So what happened after that? Tell us.
Okay.
If you're comfortable.
So I was very firm on the nose, but yeah, still never scream and still never run. Don't know why.
I think in that moment I can
You're just-
understand. Like, you're
yeah.
frozen.
Yeah, I was very scared. I was
Too
frozen.
much in shock.
There's no reason
Correct.
one. Yeah.
So after I swam out, right, I remember I said, tell me what you need to tell me, I'm leaving. But because I didn't know whether like I can leave myself, you know, I had to wait for this guy because like the door was closed. What if it was locked?
Okay.
But I remember because this came out in court. So I remember that in the house after that happened, I managed to send a text to one of my colleagues whom I was meeting for dinner. And I think I was just like, right? Okay.
All the vulgarities.
You were spewing vulgarities
Yes,
in the text.
Okay, one vulgarity.
Oh, one vulgarity.
Right.
Okay.
And then she said, what? Did we lose the house?
Okay.
And I said, no, just call me, or something like that.
Okay.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
He was very calm and composed. Like, really nothing happened.
I
Never
think-
do anything on there.
He must have been very seasoned and experienced.
Oh, he might have done that to other people
Yeah.
already.
So you are the one like spewing nonsense. You know what I mean? Because he's so
Gaslighting,
calm-headed.
gaslighting.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Okay, so you managed to leave the house.
Okay, so I said, tell me what you need. Tell me I need to leave. Okay, so this is the craziest bit, right? Because I still stand there and talk to this guy, right?
Okay.
And okay, let's leave. So let's leave. I still go down with him. He still go down with me. Still tell me where are you going after this. Let me send you. I said, no, please no. So before I went down, I had booked the Grab already. And I said, there's a car waiting for me downstairs. Still like, bye-bye me. Let me take you out for dinner sometime. I said, yeah, bye-bye.
what?
Wow, this guy really got confidence,
I
in himself.
think he's trying to manipulate you in a way where if he acts normal, then he might project
Right.
the craziness on you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You see? Yeah. Which is just
And the
terrible.
fact that he obviously didn't do anything to lift because there were cameras.
So you brought this MF to court.
So after it happened, so I went to dinner. I went to meet my friends and I spoke about this, right? And I said, what do I do now? And they said, report it. It sounds very common sense, right? But at that point, I was actually scared.
Were
And
you
I
hesitant?
I was for a minute,
Okay.
actually. I was for a minute. I don't know what I was scared about, but I was very hesitant and I was like, how do I go to the police? You know, like, what do I do? So it took me actually one day. I didn't go that night. It was the next day. I think it kept replaying in my mind.
Okay.
And I kept trying to like maybe make excuses for it, maybe deny it. But at some point I felt like, no, I think I was very violated and I have to do something about this. So I did go to the police station and it was a little bit easier because we had every detail about him, you see. We had his IC number. We had his current residing address.
Yeah. So it's not an issue of finding this guy, lah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I went over to the police station. I made a report, of which they did ask me like, how come it took you a day to come leh? So I was
Oh,
like,
they actually asked you that. I think there is also a systemic issue with this, lah. To be honest, because we don't expect police officers to be trained in sexual harassment. So therefore, the right thing to do perhaps is to bring in an expert
right.
on the topic, such
Right.
that they don't make such comments like,
Yeah.
"Oh, why did it take you a day? Like, what were you wearing?"
Yeah.
They didn't ask you that, right?
I can't remember.
Okay.
Okay.
So I made the report, and then so the company was aware of this, and they were ready to drop the house.
Okay.
That's very nice.
After which, I think the police had gone to look for him lah.
Oh.
But I don't think it was like immediate arrest because there was like a process, right? So I think they like maybe questioned him or whatever it was. So after that happened, maybe a week later, I started getting spam messages from him.
Saying what?
Basically apologizing, asking me to drop it, telling me like sob stories of like, oh, my wife passed away, my daughter is ill, please, please, please.
But the thing is, he knew all this from the start. What? Then why even engage in this? You know, why even get yourself in this?
And would spam like mad messages and messages and messages and messages, which eventually helped me in court lah.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
so
true because it's evidence.
exactly,
It's black and white.
Exactly. So, but he never mentioned what he did. You see, but
Yeah.
I mean, you're apologizing. So,
What were your considerations when you were thinking like, should I take this to court? Should I make it a case?
So when I reported, right, they said, if we have to bring this to court, would you be okay with it? And I said, yeah lor. But I think if he hadn't like tried to defend himself, or if he admitted to it, it wouldn't have gone to court. But because he had money, right, and he wanted to swim out of it,
Okay.
so he wanted to fight lah. Basically, he was saying that he didn't do it lah. So he
And at the same time,
while
he's-
texting
yeah.
you all these things.
a bit stupid, right?
right.
Oh my god, bodo.
So he
really.
decided to go to trial lah. But trial only happened like maybe a year and a half later.
Okay.
Right, because of due process and all that. lah.
So by the time they actually like called me and said, okay, this is going to court, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And wow, I tell you, I can still remember before going, I was so scared because that meant I was going to see him again.
And you hadn't seen him since.
Since then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what were you feeling when you saw him again?
I remember arriving at the courthouse that morning, and I saw him outside the room, and he was sitting there with his, not his lawyer, with somebody, and he saw me, and he looked at me and shook his head, and I was like, sorry?
Huh?
What is he thinking? I really want to know. Leh.
You really think you will win? You crazy or what?
Yeah, lor.
The fact that he can shake his head at you, like you are the one that's at fault here, is just disgusting.
It is. Okay, but in the end, what was his sentence? Did he get punished?
The verdict,
so it went on for a couple of days, but I was only at court for the first day. I was the first person on the stand, and then I think he was, and then they brought in like the colleague that I texted, the IOs who were involved in the case as well. So all that I wasn't there anymore, and then maybe a couple of months later, I received a letter from the police that said that he had been sentenced to 13 months.
Thank you to the Singapore Police Force
Thank
for
you.
bringing justice
Yes.
to our dear Azura.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly. And very proud of you for making this decision.
I know.
You are amazing, baby.
Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for sharing with us. I know it's like kind of difficult, and it's also a point of like trauma. And I just want to say to the listeners, right? If you're listening to this and this has happened to you before, let Azura's story be a catalyst for you to go and get your own justice.
Yes.
Yeah, you can shove it under the rug for as many years as you want, but it's still trauma that will never be solved and will never go away, and it will affect other parts of your life if you don't get the justice you deserve.
Because I think that now that I think back on it, if I had swept it under the rug at that time, I think I would still think about it until today.
Yeah.
Yes.
But because I had done that, right?
There's closure.
Yeah. I don't think about it anymore unless it's being brought up, and I can like talk about it now, you know?
Yeah.
I think there are many different kinds of cases where For example, in some cases, the perpetrator might not be so goddamn stupid lah, right? They might not leave even a crumb of evidence.
Yes.
And in that sense, the justice system, they have to follow due process. And without a crumb of evidence, they might not be able to prosecute. But to be honest, I really believe in karma. And I believe that good people will prevail.
Yes.
So thank
I
you,
fully
Azura, for
agree.
sharing
Thank you.
with
Yes,
us on that.
That was amazing.
So here are just some examples, from our own host here at Hush on how workplace sexual harassment really can affect your life, no matter what age you are, no matter what you are wearing. I think one thing that happened before, a cameraman actually made very, very inappropriate remarks to a Channel News Asia producer. So this is a Money Mind producer, Miss Park, and this cameraman actually WhatsApped her, right?
Okay.
And said that she can't be a presenter because number one, she has no boobs. And number two, girls shouldn't be too smart for their own good. Huh?
Joke's on you.
Yeah.
This cameraman must be
Very angry.
very old also.
Guess what? He was fired.
Oh.
Yeah.
Good on
He was
you,
fired because
yeah.
she spoke out about it.
Yeah, but you know, can you imagine if this producer didn't say a single word? Nobody would have known, and this cameraman may proceed to say similar disgusting things to other people, and it would really terrify them for the rest of their life.
Exactly. And I think another example was, in the workplace, this woman actually received kind of like unsolicited sexual messages from a male colleague.
Okay.
And she reported it up. So she had the courage to actually talk about it, but the management brushed it off. They said that, no lah, you're making something out of nothing, and just brushed her off. So you need to understand as well, if you're listening and you're working in a workplace that would brush something off like that, that is not somewhere you should stay.
Yeah.
That is not employee
Yes.
welfare
Yeah.
at all.
Exactly, and I don't think you're safe, physically safe,
Exactly.
in a setting like that.
Exactly. And if you are an employer and you're listening, please make sure that this does not happen in your workplace.
Yeah.
And that your colleagues, no matter female or male, they feel supported.
Because I think it also took them a lot of time and thinking to bring up the issue.
Correct.
Yeah. So, you at least look into it.
Yes.
Yeah. Only 1 in 3 victims actually report workplace sexual harassment in Singapore. So there are so many, many, many cases that completely go unnoticed. Yeah.
You know what? A friend of mine was sharing this story because she works in the law firm, right? And when I texted them about workplace sexual harassment, she was the first one in the group chat to say that, oh, it's very common in the legal industry. And I was like, really?
It's very common.
Yeah, I mean, lawyers, who knows the law better than you guys, right?
Yeah,
and
that's
you
why
still
law-
do it? That's what I can't wrap my head around. But anyways, she sent me this article about how this former lawyer from a top law firm was brought to court for molesting a colleague and taking intimate photos of her.
No.
Yeah, exactly. And I was reading the article, and this lawyer, similar to the person that Azura was mentioning, he eventually texted the victim, apologizing and asking the victim to drop the case. So people know the consequences of sexual harassing, but why do you still do it?
I think at the point when it happens, right, for the victim, I think shock is completely normal.
Yes.
Like what Azura has kind of shared with us as well. And even Hazel, like you were doubting yourself when it happened. You're like, but did it really happen?
Yeah,
Because-
exactly.
Yeah, because you naturally you wouldn't want it to happen to you. And also at that point of time, right, you don't react immediately.
Yeah, but that's what I think. If at that point of time you feel a bit uncomfortable, then you should know that something is off. No matter how much you try to tell yourself, was that accidental or was that on purpose? If you just feel a slight ounce of, you're not very comfortable, you should speak up. I
Trust
feel.
your gut feeling,
Yes,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah, if like in your gut you know that it's wrong, maybe not at that point, but even maybe a day or 2 days later when you have thought through it. Yeah, so I guess like in terms of the authorities, right, maybe they could be a bit more understanding about why it takes
Time.
days, even weeks for the victims to come back and report it.
Exactly, but I guess from the police point of view, they also had to understand
Yeah.
what the victim
Factually,
was
yeah.
thinking,
Correct.
Yeah.
Maybe the longer you take, it gets fuzzier as well.
Yeah, maybe they just want to catch the person as soon as possible. That's why they asked this question.
Exactly. So we actually have some advice here from Aware, okay, on how to deal with sexual harassment in the workplace, especially in Singapore. Okay. So firstly, you gotta consider talking to someone that you really trust. This person doesn't have to be in your workplace. Can be your mom, can can be a trusted friend. Just literally have a second opinion, right? Because now it's all in your head. And
Correct.
if you're alone and you're thinking about it, right, chances are, honestly, you might drive yourself crazy.
And
Yeah.
this is like spiraling to nowhere.
Yeah.
Correct.
I also think once you verbalize it, right, then you really like,
Yes.
it's serious. Like, I must do something about it.
It's not just in your
It's not
head.
just
Yes,
yeah,
your thoughts are
correct.
clearer.
Very true. Number 2, you can seek advice or counseling from an organization or a service even who have experience in helping people with, who have been sexually harassed, such as Aware's Workplace Harassment and Discrimination Advisory. This is a free service. It can even just be for emotional support. Maybe you're not looking to take legal action. It was something that happened 10 years ago.
Okay.
But you kind of want to get over that trauma. They can help you with such things. But if you need legal help, they can also help you.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Number 3, if this happened in the workplace with someone that you work with, I think it's good to review the company's internal workplace sexual harassment policies. If there even is one. If there is not one, then there should be lah. So if you kind of have reason with yourself and you're gonna approach HR, right? Yeah, take this chance as a way to impact change in your workplace, such that your next time, like your juniors that join, right, they won't go through the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. For example, for Azura, like if she did not do that, this guy could have still been renting locations to your company, and those 18, 19-year-olds who go into the
Aiyo.
company might
Interns,
be facing
correct.
Yeah.
People who
Students.
who may be even more afraid to speak up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing would be to document everything that you can. I
Oh,
think if it's just happened, right, very important. I mean, now we've literally got digital footprint everywhere. You can screenshot everything, all get everything down in black and white, do voice memos, whatever that you can to protect yourself, because you are important.
Like what Azra mentioned just now, her memory is getting fuzzier of the incident, right? So, this happens, so we should definitely just write down. But I guess one important reason why women especially, we are afraid to report incidents is because we are afraid of revenge. I mean, Azra, have you ever considered what if this asshole, right, after coming out from jail, he comes and stalk you
Correct.
and cause hurt or harm to you?
Correct.
Have you ever considered this?
I have thought about it actually.
Is he out of jail?
He is
He should be
13
out
months,
now, I
ma.
think, 13.
1-3, and
so
that,
I do
this happened
believe
like
he's
4 years
out now.
ago. Yeah.
And like, I think it's scary also because I mean, like, people know where we work, and not say our face very hidden lah. So if he wants to hunt me down, I think it's quite easy. So that scares me a little bit. But as of now, thankfully, nothing has happened. But I cannot imagine how hard it must be for others to, step forward and make a report or to tell people. Because even for myself, right? I mean, we consider ourselves one of the louder ones, the more confident in ourselves, the more, vocal ones. But at that point, I really was very scared. And I became this person that I never thought I was going to be. Because in our heads, it was always, you do this, you whack the fella, you run out, you scream, you run to the police.
Yes.
There's nothing to be afraid of.
Yes.
But when it happens, wow. So I cannot imagine for people who are already a little bit more shy or a little bit more timid to begin with.
Or imagine if it's your boss.
Yeah.
You'd be very afraid of retaliation, getting fired, getting a bad rep, and not being able to be hired and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But I think a lot of that exists in our mind.
Yes.
And when justice is truly served, right, the fact is that people wouldn't want to work with your perpetrator.
Yeah.
They want to work with you.
You were not at fault. No matter what you were doing, no matter what you were wearing, you were not at fault. Because don't teach your daughters not to wear this and that. Teach your sons to keep their dicks to themselves.
It's true. No, it's true. It's true. You can't normalize it, Once you normalize it, there's no change that's going to happen from there. So we've also discussed that, women, there are a lot of reasons that women might find it, to be a bit hesitant when it comes to reporting, right? So we encourage you, definitely, if you're listening right now, if you want to speak to, someone on the Clarity team, we'll keep your stories confidential as well.
Yes.
And we'll see how we can help you. And we can even just be a listening ear if it's something that happened long ago. So yeah, feel free to DM us at itsclarity.co.
Okay, so to wrap off this episode, right, what would be your advice to people who have experienced sexual harassment?
Hazel, what would be your advice if, let's say, right, someone experienced the same thing, similar thing, where it's kind of like a physical touch kind of sexual
Okay.
harassment, but a touch and go?
A touch and go. exactly because it is a touch and go, I still cannot be sure whether it's on purpose or by accident. But I would tell that person, give him the benefit of the doubt just this once. If it ever happens again, then you know for sure it is no accident, and you have to report it.
Understand.
So this is what I would say. And also, if you have friends coming to you with their personal experiences of being sexually harassed, just try to give them a bit more empathy. Try to put yourself in their shoes, and no matter how clear you think the solution is, whack the guy, run for it, and then go to the police. Just understand that in that moment, when things just happen, it's a bit hard for the victim to react there and then on the spot.
Yep.
And we would not ever know this feeling until we are in it ourselves, which I hope none of us have to experience this ever in our lives.
Azura, what about you? Let's say if someone is like maybe an intern, working, young, just entered the workforce, and someone of a more powerful position actually sexually harassed them.
I'd say don't be afraid to stand up for yourself, even if at that point of time, right? You may think that your actions were questionable, because that was what I thought about a lot. Like I thought wow, I will be questioned on why I still stayed. Like, it doesn't make sense. Why was I still there?
Why would the
didn't I
police believe
run?
me?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, but I hope you know that I think at this point, enough people have come out to share their stories, and I think we understand a little bit better. I think people are more empathetic as well, that we understand and we know that at that point of time, you can't react the way you think you would have. And if you think that your actions were questionable or anything like that, don't let that stop you from coming forward, because whatever happened still happened. It's still valid. It's still wrong. And you should still speak out about it.
Definitely. I think your safety really, really comes first. And, I would love to get to the root of the problem, which is that when we were young, right, I don't remember anyone teaching me about sexual harassment. And I didn't know how to identify sexual harassment. I've been molested in MRT before.
Oh.
When I was 12 years old, I didn't even know I was being molested.
But how did you eventually know then?
Oh, because an auntie saw it and she shouted at me. She said, "Get off the train." She asked me to get off at the next stop to get away from the perpetrator. No, but this is not workplace. So basically, what I'm saying is that if you're listening, you have younger siblings, teach them. This is very important. You need to teach them how to identify sexual harassment, sexual assault. What can they do in that moment to understand that, hey, this is an assault against me. Whereas if let's say as a 12-year-old, I wouldn't even know that guy touched me and stuff. I wouldn't even know. I would have just gone on my day and like that, no? Yeah. So educate your younger siblings, your children, on what exactly it entails, so that they are able to identify and to come back to you and tell you
What exactly happened.
This happened to me.
I also read something, especially for younger kids, I read this thing where they said as parents, don't use, code names or code words for your private parts and things like that. Use the actual term, because if they know the words, first of all, the assaulter would be more afraid to do it, because they know this person knows this vocabulary.
Okay.
And they can also come back and tell you more specifically. Yeah.
Hey, can you remind me that when I have a child next time? I'm afraid I will forget.
I'll teach your child.
I feel like Azura I feel like Azura has given us a lot of very good advice.
Yeah.
Like asking the person, what do you mean when someone says something offensive?
I'm going to try that next time.
Yeah,
huh?
exactly.
Just play it. I'm sorry, I don't understand. Can you explain to me?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
I'm going to explain, ask them to explain it.
Yeah, very good, very good. So, we hope that this episode has been helpful to you. We hope that it shed some light. And if you have experienced sexual harassment before, we are so sorry to hear. But please know that it's very important to come up and, most importantly, get closure for yourself.
Yeah, I think a lot of females in Singapore, whether in the workplace or not, have experienced some form of sexual harassment or assault. But because most of us tend to sweep it under the rug, it's quite a heavy topic that we're talking about here today. But just know that we are here for you. No matter what it is you're going through, no matter how many people believe you or don't believe you, we are here for you.
Men and women alike, okay?
Exactly.
But we are celebrating International Women's Day. So
Yes.
happy International Women's
International
Day!
Women's Day!
Thank you so much for listening to us. Once again, I'm Hazel.
I'm Azura.
I'm Jermaine.
And we'll see you next time on Cleverities